Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we're continuing our ongoing coverage of the war between the Russian Federation and the Ukraine. Now, today, obviously, I have used a different map. This map will give you a better depiction, a better situational awareness of what is happening on the battlefield, namely the Russian operations that are taking place to the northeast of Kharkov. Those operations continue, and it appears the Russians are in the process of mopping up operations within the vicinity of Volchansk. They appear to be attempting to sever the ability of the Ukrainian military to cross this key terrain feature, the Volcha River, more like a creek. Now, those operations continue, as we have talked about before. The primary goal of the Russian military activity in this area is to fix and then engage the Ukrainian military with its air power, with its air capability and heavy artillery. And we're continuing to see that. We're continuing to see the Ukrainian army taking significant casualties day in and day out, both along the front lines and in the deep rear of the battlefield as well. Now, let's look at this as well from a strategic viewpoint. The Russians continue its campaign. The Russians believe that they are not just fighting the armed forces of the Ukraine, and quite frankly, they're not. They are also fighting the economic and military powers of the West. And it's really important to understand just how much support the Ukrainians are getting from the West. So just U.S. economic and military aid alone from the United States is about $175 billion. Let me say that again. $175 billion. On top of that, the Ukrainians are using about 33% of its GDP on its military. The Ukrainian military, the Ukrainian state, would not be able to survive with those kind of expenditures without the direct support and the infusion of cash and money and treasure from the United States and its Western European allies. $175 billion alone from the United States. Now, to compare and contrast, and this is very important to do so, the yearly military expenditures of the European megapowers. And yes, there are European powers, there are the countries of Europe, and there are the three European megapowers: Germany, France, and the United Kingdom. The defense expenditures per year for these three European megapowers, the UK, France, and Germany, is about that $175 billion. Each of these nation states, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, invest yearly in its defense industry and its defense military capability of about 50 billion plus, 50 to 70 billion each. That's incredible if you think about it, that the Ukrainians have received that much support. And that's just the support from the United States. That doesn't include the direct support from Germany, France, the United Kingdom, Canada, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, the Czech Republic, the Slovak Republic, Austria, Italy, Spain, Canada. All these nation states have assisted the Ukrainians in some way, either with money or direct military support. So we can't even at this point quantify the amount of support the Ukrainians have received. It is possible that in terms of dollars, in terms of services, in terms of direct military equipment being sent to the Ukrainians, and a lot of this is money. Everything is built around money. The ability to put money in people's bank accounts. Military leaders, civilian leaders, corporate leaders, corporate industry, ministries inside of the Ukraine, support functions from the West. All that requires money. No one does anything for free. It requires capital. And the Ukrainians, in all probability, in terms of direct support, are probably receiving military support and financing that are on par with the entire defense spending of Western Europe, all the countries. It's astronomical, the effort that is underway to support the Ukrainian war effort. So when you hear about these military analysts looking at this conflict and making disparaging remarks about the Russian military, its capabilities, its performance, I don't think they're including the entire picture. The entire picture has to be placed in front of you. And that entire picture, in terms of what is being given to the Ukrainians, the intelligence support, the information support, direct military know-how, it's astronomical. It's off the charts. It's probably unprecedented. And yet the war continues. Now, what should be concerning for the United States, the West, the United States in its current leadership under, this guy here. Well, we can't really say he's the leader. He is the figurehead. There are a number of other persons behind the scenes actually running the country. I think this is the first time in U.S. history in which the United States really does not have an elected president. Make no mistake, this individual is not calling the shots, but he symbolizes the party and the apparatus that is calling the shots. And what this group has done is unprecedented in and of itself. It has created an alliance, a political alliance, an economic alliance, and a growing military alliance between the Russian Federation and the People's Republic of China. Now, the gravitational pull of these two nation states, Russia and China, is also going to pull in to their sphere of influence countries such as North Korea, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Iran, Iraq, Syria, we'll have to go over to the Americas, such as Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, in all probability Brazil, that will gravitate towards this new alliance. And if war erupts, if God forbid war erupts and the course that we are currently on, when I say we, the United States, we are heading towards a global war between the United States and whatever allies the United States has and or can keep, between the Russian Federation, China, Iran, and this new center of power that is developing in the East. You can say that the Trump administration was doing things to agitate China, especially in regards to economics. But at the same time, the United States was playing a very strategic game in not creating animosity with the Russian Federation. It was very important, and should be important to this day, to not support the creation of a Chinese and Russian military alliance. A Russian and Chinese military alliance, in conjunction with North Korea, Iran, Venezuela, would be an incredible tough nut for the United States to take on. So much so that countries that are ordinarily allied with the United States, those countries may find themselves sitting on the fence in a future conflict. And make no mistake of it, the course that we are on, we, the United States, that conflict is getting closer and closer and closer. There are military units now in the continental United States that wear the 2027 patch. Do you know why these military units wear the 2027 patch? Because they believe that by 2027, the United States could be in a direct war with China. So you have a country with 1,400,000,000 people allied with the largest country on earth in terms of land mass and resources, with another 150 million people. Now we can go back to World War II. And when I talk about World War II in terms of the idea, the concept that in reality the Russians won World War II. Now, people in the West, here in the United States, the uninformed urbanite can say, well, the Russians were able to be successful in World War II because of the direct assistance by the United States, the economic power, the industry of the United States directly supporting the Soviets. That may be so, but in a future-facing conflict, you would just replace the United States supporting the Russian Federation with, or the Soviets, if you're comparing and contrasting World War II with present day, in terms of outside assistance that could help facilitate a Russian victory. And that replacement would be China. The industrial and military capacity of China right now is unfathomable. combined with the resources that exist in Russia, this is a adversary that the United States does not want nor need. China alone, fine. But when you merge the landmass and the peoples of Eurasia, the Russian Federation, with China, which then sucks in Mongolia and Kazakhstan and North Korea, and the former Soviet states would inherently side with the Russian Federation in this new alliance. It's a difficult situation that the United States, in all probability, would find it very, very challenging to overcome, if we could overcome it. It is going to be the greatest conflict the earth has ever seen. It'll be on a scale that no one can really get their head around. Now, the United States during World War II was spared war. It was spared direct attacks on the continental United States, with the exception of the Japanese occupying Attu and some other Alaskan islands. But the United States was not directly attacked. In the upcoming war, in which we have a Russian-Sino alliance, the United States is going to get hit. The United States is going to be attacked. The capability is there. With long-range cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, those nation states, China and Russia, would have the ability to strike at the United States directly. So we would feel the impact of war directly. And we are probably going to see that occur. Now, what I don't think a lot of people are really getting their heads around, especially as I speak again of the uninformed urbanite. I ask colleagues, if you woke up tomorrow and you did not have the ability to use your credit cards, if you went to the bank and the bank computer systems are down and they have no way to give you cash, and furthermore, they don't even know how much money you have in your bank account. They can't tell you. Most Americans have, at best, a few $100s in cash. And that cash would become essentially worthless overnight with what's coming. What would you do? How would you feed yourselves? Most Americans have between 2 days and a week to 2 weeks worth of food. Most grocery stores, and we're talking about supply chains, have about a day of merchandise on hand if there is some sort of run at the grocery store. But if we're talking about global cyber attacks on an unprecedented scale that eliminates your ability to make purchases, what are you going to do? Do you think the grocery stores are just going to give you groceries? Do you think that at some point riots will not occur and the grocery stores will be looted? Supply chains will go defunct. What will you do? How will you live? Do you like toilet paper? That is one question I love to ask people. Do you like toilet paper? What would you do if in about 3.5 weeks you don't have access to toilet paper? What would you do? And these are the things you have to consider, especially in a massive global war against Russia and China. Not to mention the very real possibility that a civil war is going to occur here in the United States. We have entered the age of madness. The age of madness. That's what I like to call it. The age of insanity. The lessons in insanity. If I go back to the 1980s, even the early 1990s, and I would listen to persons that were hardcore Christians. And they would talk about the end times. They would talk about the prospects of humans getting microchips implanted in their bodies. And I got to tell you, back then, in the 1980s, late 1970s, and I'm sure there are many people listening that would agree with me, thought that was insane. They thought it was crazy. They thought it was something that would, I mean, who would get a microchip implanted in their body? Right? Go back to the 80s if you heard that. You know, the sign of the beast, everyone's going to get a microchip. Completely discounted it. At the same time, if you would have told me during that period of time, in the 80s, the 70s, some of you are older, some are younger, if you would have told me that in the future, in 2024, there would be an argument about men becoming women, girls becoming boys, the mutilation of girls and young boys where they can't have children, where they are castrated at a young age, sponsored by the government. If you would have told me the United States government would be encouraging and accepting that doctors mutilate boys and young girls because of gender dysphoria, that would have probably have been even more ridiculous than the whole concept of the microchip. If you would have told me that in 1980, that California, the state of California, and other states around the United States would be removing the capability of parents to have parental decision-making processes in their children's lives, such as this whole transvestite thing that's happening right now, I would have said you're insane. Just like the whole concept of the sign of the beast and the microchip. And again, on the whole matter of religion, I'm not that. I'm not that. I would classify myself as agnostic. But I got to tell you, the age of madness that we are living in now, I have to rethink this. You just have to. Now, I have really sidetracked from our original analysis of the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. But we can see where this is heading. And it's not heading towards a good ending. And there are multiple really bad things happening right now. Not just the prospects of an alliance between Russia and China and a global war, but what's happening right now in the United States, the division in the United States, and this insanity that we are seeing the left-wing body politic try and pull on the American people. So feel free to comment in the comment section. We will continue to watch the conflict very closely. We will continue to report. Thank you for joining us today. More to come. As always, have a good day.